All right, I want to do something different with you today. And now I'm all about going through contradictions and how things stand up with the Bible or what people say.
Who says the Bible makes logical sense? I've got a lot of questions about that.
Now, there are some people that say certain things that when we get into it, you think, I don't know. On the other side, the Bible can stand up for itself. Some things make so much more sense when we know this one thing and everything just opens up. My name's Craig and this is Morning Star Quest, where we are delving into the Bible one question at a time. And today I want to go through two guys. They are clearly skeptics.
No, if anybody ever just took advice from me, I would pity that person.
Genesis, well, it appears to have this big contradiction with Genesis 1, and then there is Genesis 2 that seems to put things in a different light, and we end up, feels like we're telling the story again, but from a different angle. What I found out and how I'm going to show you this will change your perspective. Let's just start. We have Forrest and Durante, and they are taking coolers, and this poor guy, I think his name is Stevie, and it just feels like he's getting hammered, even though he's trying.
What I have written on the call screen is the Bible makes logical sense. Do you mean that seriously, or is that like you're just condensing the overall point? Like, is that kind of like a hyperbole, or is that actually genuinely what you mean to call it about?
Yeah, no, that's genuinely. I've watched some of your prior content, and I feel like the majority of the people that come on here really maybe don't know what they don't know, and so I just wanted to.
The chosen one has entered the Thunderdome. I love this.
I wanted to defend the Bible.
This is awesome.
These are common tactics. One, this is just setting people so high that anything below that will be a failure. And it's impossible to be that. But anyway, let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Sure. Okay. Do you have a particular case you want to make before I start asking questions?
I'd like to see where you take it. So yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
It's interesting.
Do you want to begin or should I?
Nope. I feel like this one is special. This is the golden child right here. This is the chosen one. He's entered the Thunderdome. He's saying no one else before him has understood this.
Setting
Everybody
him
else
high.
who's come before him are thieves and liars. Yeah. He is here to show us the way.
I didn't say that.
I am interested in this. I am interested.
Sure. Okay. So if we're going to say that it makes logical sense, there's a couple of things that I immediately, my mind jumps to. When somebody says something makes logical sense to me, that would mean, number one, that it is consistent with reality. It's consistent with logic. And number two, that it's like, at least at the very minimum, internally consistent. Like, that's what that sounds like to me. And the Bible meets neither of those criteria.
Well, it does, but you don't want to believe it. And, well, let's keep going, because me just saying it is not going to change anybody anytime. So let's just keep going.
So what do you mean by logical sense? And is it different than what I laid out?
Oh, it's very different.
Well, my stance is the Bible is absolutely true in every aspect. On the logical side of that, I believe the message of the Bible does make logical sense. And
can I just put in here, the message of the Bible does make sense because it's all about Jesus, the Old Testament, the New Testament. It's how a broken world, we have caused this broken world. God is trying to restore it, and that's through Jesus. That's the message. There's nothing unbroken and confusing and unlogical about that. But anyway, let's just keep going, because I feel like they're going down a rabbit hole and I'm going to have to keep pulling them out again.
Is true. So, I mean, I'm here to defend the Bible. So whatever your next question is, let's make it happen.
So then would it be fair to say that like a plain text reading of the Bible, word for word, exactly what it says, would be an accurate representation of reality?
No, because that's not how you read the Bible. The Bible is Sometimes it's a poetry, sometimes it's a song like Psalms. And just think of your favourite song at the moment. If you were to write that out, would you take that on as literal? No, because it's more than that. Then there are some things with philosophy. Was it Proverbs, Ecclesiastes and Job by themselves are not the full picture, but all three together, plus with the Bible, they start making sense. So you can't say literal.
Or do you think that it needs to be specially interpreted?
Well, there are many things in the Bible that are very plain, easy to understand. They mean what they say. There are some things that are not. So the majority of the Bible is, I should say, makes, you can make sense of it if you read it. And then there's a small portion, or I'd probably say like maybe a third or a fourth that is up to interpretation. And so that's why you see a lot of the different denominations.
So let me be a little bit more clear. Let me be a little bit more clear, and maybe this won't. We'll see if this helps ameliorate what I'm, or it's not ameliorate. Pardon me, elucidate what I'm trying to get to here. Is if the Bible says this happened and then this happened and then this happened, can I take that exactly as written to be true?
No, because that's not how stories work. I mean, your favorite movie. Is it literally in a standard line? Some might be. Others, they jump around and they don't even tell you, but it's only near the end that you realize it. So, no, this is not how stories work, how history works, how the Bible works.
True? Or are there times in which I need to specially interpret that and kind of pass it through a filter of like revision and interpretation and
No, it's plain, but you need to be able to understand it, and we'll get into that.
Translation, or is it just if the Bible says these things happened in this way, that's what, and the interpretation part is only like an
you have to swear, but anyway,
allegory.
It is true in one sense or another. So there are some things, like for example, there's a part in Genesis that says, the floodgates of the heavens open to, burst forth or something like that. Or there's another passage which talks about the world resting on pillars. Some of that is figurative speech, but it is true in a sense. So the Bible, the entire Bible is true in a sense. So I think for the most part, the answer is yes to that question.
Okay. So let's start with Genesis, and then we'll jump to the New Testament here in a minute. And just because like you started with Genesis, so we'll start there as well. Genesis chapter 1. I've got it open right here. I've got my Bible, right? So in Genesis chapter 1, verse 20, God said, "Let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that has life, and the fowl that may fly above the earth and in the open firmament of heaven. And God created great whales and every living creature that moves, which the water brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God said it was good." So can we agree at this moment, Stevie, that Genesis chapter 1 says that God made all of the fish and whales and swimming things and also birds all out of the water? Do we agree that that is what that says and what that means?
Yeah, that's correct.
I can read it. Okay, so we agree. I'm just going to say it again, and forgive me for being redundant. I just want to make very certain. We're agreeing right now that Genesis chapter 1, verses 20 and 21 definitively, clearly, unequivocally say that God made all the fish and whales and everything and all the birds out of the water all at the same time, right?
I don't know that he made it out of water, but if that's what it says.
It says.
See, the problem here is, and like I said, I will be getting to this more, and you'll just go, oh, that makes more sense. But sometimes I think we lock ourselves so tightly into a word, like out of water, out of mud, and then something's out of order. And look, he's going to go into this argument that Genesis 1 talks about a certain order, and it's like animals, then man. And then in Genesis 2, it's kind of like Adam, animals, woman, like Eve. And it's out of order. But there's a purpose to this. And you know what? I'm going to just finish up I'm finishing up with them. I'm not going to finish up with this because I want to go into way, way more. Now, it's going to start with explaining, like there's lots of things with Genesis that there are problems. You say about the order of the animals and Adam and Eve, and there is even talk about that Genesis was put together from different sources because it talks about God or the name of God in different ways. Like the beginning in Genesis 1, it's Elohim. In Genesis 2, it's Yahweh Elohim. So it's different, and it's all bitses. Now, let's just go over this and you'll start to see what I mean. And this starts with chiasms. Chiasm is X, is just Greek for X. And it is X-isms. So basically, everything starts with an open idea, but there is also an opposite and mirror image of A or A prime. You can see here in green is the closing idea. B section is related idea, and then in the equal and opposite mirror is B prime, the reflection of B, and it works its way down. And like a modern story, we have a start and an ending. This, the whole point of it is in the middle. That's the X, the center point, the pivot, the whole point of what this is talking about. Opening idea A, that is, now if we go to Genesis here, you can see A is the creation of the world. That is Genesis 1. Genesis 2 is the Garden of Eden. So it has the big picture, creation of the world, and then it zooms in and talks about the Garden of Eden and the fall. It's repeating the first thing, but giving you a different perspective. And then we have Cain and Abel, and the Tower of Babel are reference points to each other. They're mirrors. Like Cain and Abel, obviously there's the killing of Abel by Cain, and he is not listening to God. He's trying to get away from God. Then there's the Tower of Babel where exactly the same thing is happening, but in a different way. Then there's the generations of Adam to Noah, and the sons of Noah generations is the opposite. Or the mirror, I should say, because not necessarily the opposite. It's more the mirror or the reflection of the first part, like the D is to the D prime, but it's something extra. And then we have the flood begins, and then E prime, or the other side of that is the waters going away, and then having a covenant with Noah. So it's kind of like the whole point of this is, well, the flood, and right at the very center is God remembers Noah. There are different sections in each one of these that gives a different name for God. Like there's Elohim, which is a very priestly way of saying it. Then we have Yahweh Elohim, which is the more personal one, which is where we see in the garden, we see, let's go back, Garden of Eden and the fall, which is more personal. So it's a more personal name. And then we have Cain and Abel's story. This is where God makes a covenant with Cain with, I'm going to make sure people don't kill you, so I'm going to put a mark on your head, and this is what's going to happen. And the Tower of Babel is a very similar thing. And so it's another name. It's an even more personal name. It's just Yahweh. And Yahweh was so personal for the Israelites that they didn't even put in the vowel sounds. So you didn't quite get how to say it. It was secret. It was so personal. Then we have a look at how the different names change as it goes through. This is Genesis. We've just seen it there. Was it Genesis here? We can see, the different sections. So the first section, like I said, it's a very priestly, big picture stuff. It's Elohim. Then it goes into Yahweh Elohim, and then Yahweh is the Cain and Abel story. Then it goes back to Elohim. It's very priestly because it's the genealogies of Adam and Noah. Very priestly. And then it starts to go down. This E section is very interesting because it starts with Elohim and then it goes into Yahweh. And that's how the story, like half of this, I don't have it here, but half of it gets into the first half is Elohim, the last half is Yahweh. But when we get into the opposite with the E prime, Yahweh is first and then it's Elohim. And right in the center here, it's all the way through. Now I'm going to jump to here. And this is so interesting. Even though this is the center here and we have 7, 40, 150, for 150 days. Then it's God remembers Noah, and then 150, 40, 7 days, 7 days. And then finally the bird returns and they are as dry land and they can open up the ark. But God remembers. Now, this whole section here is Elohim. This whole section, except for, and I should say the whole section's Elohim, but this bit here, God is Elohim, but remembers Noah. That is a very personal touch. Everything else is here, big picture. It's priestly, it's Elohim, it fits the narrative. But God remembers Noah. In those 3 words, it swaps. It's the big picture God, Elohim, very personal, remembers Noah. That's crazy. But then it flips back and we go back to Elohim, which is matching D, Yahweh, which matches C, and then something interesting really happens. B and A are opposites because this A prime is the very first verse of the next chiasm. Genesis, all of Genesis is 3 chiasms in one. And it also has a whole multitude of other ones. So when you see it like this, you realize the differences that he's talking about. Like creation of the world, there's this order of things, and then in the B section, the Garden of Eden, and it flips it, and it's a different order. It's for a reason. It's to tell you that time doesn't matter. The sequence of events doesn't matter. What does matter is that God matters. And this is all about God, not about sequence and science and all the rest. It's just to tell you that God matters and we matter to God. That's everything, isn't it? And yet we have people telling you.
Yeah. It says, let the waters bring forth the moving creature that has.
And they get specific about things that aren't the point. They're not the thing that matters. First of all, when you see or hear someone being skeptical, just be careful of their little tricks to kind of try and trap you, and maybe bring up this chiasm and how that's structured, and that those things don't matter because it's about God. So go do something else and forgotten. I'll catch you in the next one, and go click on that one because it's pretty crazy. Click on that one.